Hi, thanks for coming everyone. I'm going to talk a bit about Docker and Docker on the Raspberry Pi in particular, which I know is really relevant to what you're doing here today. I'm a Docker captain, which means I'm an advocate for Docker technology. I don't work for Docker, but they support me and I support them, and I try to look into new technology, stuff that they're doing, and kind of get it out there to you. So I'm in the community, giving talks and kind of helping people out. So hope there'll be some good questions at the end of this. Now, when I was thinking about this talk originally, it was being put together for an audience in Seattle. So I was heading over to the west coast of America, and I'd got my slides together, I'd got all of this networking, just great, everything was fine. But I needed a way of kind of tying in the talk in a way that was going to make sense for people. And put my timer on. I sat down in the departure lounge of Heathrow, and I was thinking, I really need something to open this talk, something that really makes sense. And there was an issue of Wired magazine. I picked it up, and this is what I read. It said, real sustainable growth doesn't come from new technology, but from existing technology kind of remixed or reapplied. And so think how long you were sending photos over email before you then started using Snapchat or Instagram. Okay. What's the difference? It's the old way of doing stuff, new. So everything old is new again. We used to do things like, I was speaking to my mum on the phone this morning, and she said, I remember when we had found a computer and you used to crash it every week, and we used to get your uncle around to fix it. And I thought, if only I had a Raspberry Pi when I was 10, when I was 13, when I was 15, I could have crashed it every day, every night. I could just reflash the card, right? No stress for my parents, no stress for my uncle. And so that was the old way of doing things, and now we've got a new way of doing things, and it's kind of a remix. Now, as far as Docker and swarms and clusters are concerned, we used to do a lot with tools like Beowulf. Now we have things like Docker Swarm. Google are adopting this, and they're running huge services really reliably in the internet. So everything old is new again. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think IoT is, because this talk is really about applying Raspberry Pi for sensors, for something really smart, and then the kind of steps I took on the way to building this demo and why I built it. So I didn't just wake up one day and think, oh, I really need to build this really complicated proof of concept. There was a driver behind it, and then we're going to speak about what Pimoroni's produced and how they've helped me with this. As you can see down here, we have a bunch of LEDs going at the moment. We'll get a live demo and a chance for Q&A. Okay. I know some of you won't know what Docker is or what a container is. I'm going to talk a bit to that as well. So IoT, all the things. For me, again, going back in time, my first experience of IoT is probably a network printer at school when I was 15. So I was fascinated by the fact that a thing could have an IP address. It didn't have to be plugged into my computer. Another example, something more modern, might be a baby monitor. Okay, some of you have children. And even light bulbs. Okay, I stayed in a hotel when I did this talk in central London, and you could control the entire hotel through an iPad. So you could choose the colour of the lights, you could turn the shower on and off and bring the blinds up and down. So IoT is getting everywhere, and really we're kind of looking at creating something cool with it and something that's actually useful. So you could take this and apply it. The idea that I have here is that each of these sensors would be placed in a server rack and then monitor the temperature and then monitor any motion and report it back to a central location. Okay, all using Raspberry Pis. Smartwatches. I don't know if anyone's got one on other than Tim and Phil. I remember when these used to cost about £5, nobody wanted to know about them. how different is that now? Okay, another old technology made new, it's being remixed, and I think that really applies when you think of all the makers that we've got here and what you guys are doing. What's a container? Tell you a little bit about Docker. So that big box up there, you've seen a shipping container before. The idea is that when you run your software on your Raspberry Pi or on your PC, you can kind of put some constraints around it. You can isolate it. And we used to do that in the past through things called virtual machines. Some of you may have worked with those already. I certainly use them quite a lot of work. They're not virtual machines, and they're not lightweight virtual machines. They're really far removed from that, but they give you some of the benefits. So you can get added security. You can isolate the system. And again, I was talking about how I used to trash our family computer. Using something like Docker, you can get a safe sandbox to do whatever you want and throw it away at the end. And there's barely any cost in setting that up. Now this is a really big project. There's some big names behind it like Microsoft and also Amazon, Goldman Sachs. There's some really big names. Microsoft took such note of this technology that they've built it into Windows 10 and into Windows 2016, which means it's a really big thing, right? There have been 4 billion container downloads from the public hub. Public hub is where you can build your software and share it for other people. Okay, so everything that I've done here, I've pushed up into the public hub. If you've got this equipment, an EnviroFAT, you can put it down and you can just run it up in seconds. It's really popular with people, so I'm a Docker captain, as I said, but there's loads of other people out there. There's 67 Docker captains, but there's loads of people in meetup groups and people contributing to the code, trying to make it better. It's an open source project, but it has a sponsor called Docker Inc., who provide full-time employees to actually contribute on the code and support enterprise. So, what could you do as a CamJam visitor, enthusiast, maker with Docker? So it's great for learning to code. If you want to know more about Java, then you can pull an image from the Docker registry that contains Java, and you can start that up, do whatever you want with it, and bin it. Or you can just make your own. Okay, I think some people play with Lisp here. You could probably get Lisp down within a couple of minutes without having to install it and understand it. So it's great for learning to code. It's great for sharing projects with friends. So I know Phil at Pimoroni, you guys do a lot with these hardware projects. So let's say something you had on your build tank program was a Twitter bot will listen for tweets about CamJam and flick up blue LEDs. You could build that entire package, push it to the Docker hub, and what it does is it takes the root file system, effectively every change that you've made as individual layers, and then I could at home pull that down, or somebody's son or school child or in a workshop can pull that down and just run it. You don't need to know how to set it up. You don't have to follow instructions. Who here has followed instructions for something and it's not worked? Yeah? Who has written instructions that didn't work? That should have worked, right? Bocker hits this, head on. What you build will work the same on any computer. It will work exactly the same. There's no fuzziness about it. So if you're setting up a workshop for CamJam, okay, you've got 30 people coming to play with sensors maybe. You can put together all the software, make it hackable, and people can download it, make their changes, build a new image, and run it. They don't even have to install Python on their actual Pi. I mean, it's really quite exciting. So you can also build a supercomputer. So Jim might be interested in that. Let's see if I can get my mouse back. So there were a number of things that I did with this technology. The first thing I did when I looked into Docker on the Raspberry Pi was to build out a cluster. Okay, it had 28 CPUs, and I came to actually Pi Wars. Okay? And I met the editors of Linux User Developer magazine. They saw my blog article and they said, can you write it for our magazine? So that was my second achievement unlocked. Then I went on to look at how to pull images down and make them run on the Raspberry Pi, because the ones out there were for regular PCs. They needed a bit of tweaking. So if you like tweaking, you probably like this. And then the third thing here really is becoming a Docker captain. So I'd spent so much time looking at Docker and figuring out the basics that I wrote a tutorial. They picked it up and they said, we really want you to join our advocates program. We want to give something back to you. And that's been great. So every time I write a tutorial, they'll share it in their Twitter feed if it's good content, if it's relevant. And so I went from getting around 10,000 hits per year in my blog to something more like, I think in the last 28 days, 26,000. Okay, so it's really cool being a Docker captain. So why did I build this hack? Well, really, I wanted to go to DockerCon, and there was a contest. You get your free pass, free travel, and you get to present to 4,000 people. So just a few more than we've got here today. And I thought, great, I would love to do that. I really love to do that. So I sat down and I thought, well, I've done Raspberry Pi 3, or Raspberry Pi 2 at the time. Let's look at the Pi 0. I don't really need to tell you guys much about that. And that's what I built. So this is a bit like what we have here, but it's more basic. We've got a manager at the bottom of this stack, and then I think 4 workers, and every time the manager receives a web request, it will figure out who's least busy, ping it to them, and the lights will flash. And I shared it on Twitter. It became really popular. It was the most popular media tweet for the whole of Docker in May. They're a huge organisation, so it was really cool. I was really excited about that. And there's a photo there of it actually at the build tag, which I'll talk about in a second. So I shared the content, and then this happened. You guys probably don't recognise the name, but Solomon Hykes founded the Docker project. He is their chief technical officer, the CTO, and for him to direct message me about it, I was like, #winning. It was awesome, and I thought, this is definitely going to get me to DockerCon, definitely. Then someone at Pimoroni, one of you guys, tweeted me and he said, come and visit us if you like. And I think we increased your visitor count to like 5 times the normal level because of the interest around Docker and clusters. Right, I think Erin, you've got some swag down there. I'm going to show the guys. I'm going to be giving that away at the end. So think about questions. You've got some good questions. And the guys wanted to say hello at DockerCon. This is the people behind Pimoroni. They've really supported me with building this hack. It's travelled quite a lot so far, and loads of people have seen it. And the hardware works faultlessly. Okay, I'd really encourage you, if you want to play, get hold of some of that stuff. So actually, things didn't work out. And Docker said, we've seen LEDs, we're not impressed, you need to stretch the technology. And I was like, great, thanks. This was really hard. It's really clever, be sure you understand it properly. And I think it was John at Pimoroni said, quit whining, IoT's come, it's gone, do something else. And we went back to the drawing board, and we came up with this hack that I told you about at the beginning. So we're using hardware sensors and LEDs to do something in real life. We're measuring what's going on in the environment. So the new hack uses the EnviroFat, which was quite a new product at the time, around May. That's got some really awesome sensors on it. So it will pick up temperature, it will pick up motion. Those are the 2 that I'm using, and some other bits. The blinked, which is something that John actually decided to make me because he didn't want me going around with the unbranded LED board. He said, we're going to make you something better. And as soon as I'd left Pimoroni for being on the bilge tank. They'd already gone off and sent an order for like a whole bunch of these for me. And they said, we don't mind if you don't get there, we just want you to have these to play with. And I thought that was awesome. Really good guys. So they got excited and they helped me out and we built a new hack. So everyone's heard of Python, maybe haven't heard of Redis. Redis is a key value store. So you can put a key in it and a value, but it also has really neat real-time features. So the way this works is as soon as it sends a message, any other Pi that's listening will get hold of it in real time. It's very easy to use. It uses Bocker, Compose, and as I said, Docker Swarm. All of the libraries for these products are written in Python, so I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I didn't want to make things hard for myself. Python's a natural language for the Pi, and it kind of went from there. At a high level, technical level, this is what we've got. We have a bunch of containers. So I said containers are a way of putting your software in a box. Okay. I didn't write a container for Redis. I pulled one down from the internet and I ran it up. That gave me Redis. It's that easy. Then have a web dashboard. It really wasn't a core part of the talk, but it gave you something a bit more visual, so you can kind of see how it works together. We've got the LED dashboard, which is over here. It shows you all of the statuses of the Pis that are connected. Okay. And then we've got the sensors, so they're the envirofacts. The manager is in the stack just there, and with the current version of Docker Swarm, you allocate one of your Raspberry Pis as manager, and then as many workers as you want. Every time you want to run some work, it will find an ideal place to sit, if it's free, and you can scale it up. So that sensor node can get scaled up for as many Pis as you've got. We've got 4 sensors here. If you add a 5th one, I don't have to do any work. I just say scale to 5. If there's workers in the swarm, they will scale up. So looking a little bit deeper, I talked about key value pairs, right, in the key value store. Have a bunch of keys here, whether the Pi is live, what the temperature is, what the baseline temperature was when we turned the thing on, and then things like how much motion there is at that point in time. And constantly that sensor is updating the values, and it updates it with a timeout. So the live value will have a life of 30 seconds. If we were to unplug this one, it will stay on that screen for 30 seconds and it will completely drop off. Okay. So Redis is quite cool. It's got some great tech behind it, and it's a similar concept to what you'd have running Twitter, to rank tweets, how popular they are. It's really efficient, and if you want to know more about that, come and speak to me. So demo then. These are the commands that I type in. Docker info will tell me how many nodes are connected in my swarm. Docker Compose is a tool that lets me specify in a YAML file a bunch of different services. So we've got the Redis, we've got the manager, we've got the LED dashboard, remember that, and the web dashboard. Okay. I'm just going to go over to mirroring. So, let's get this turned on. Do I see that? A little bit bigger. So right now, if I was typing Docker info, I get a whole bunch of nodes showing up. And each of these tells you how much memory it has available. They're headless, so I've taken the GPU split really far down, 16 meg, just so I've got a bit more memory. And go right down, you'll see collectively 6 CPUs, almost 3 gig of RAM, all pulled together to run whatever we want. I've actually started up the service already, but what we'll do is we'll scale it up to, let's say 2. And one of these, I don't know which one because it's non-deterministic, will just start blinking blue and then it will be connected. So have a look. it's going to create the container, find a way to put it on the network, and then shortly it will start up. Okay, you guys see that? Now I told you there was a web dashboard as well, and that's running on this IP address, 32774. So, what have we got here? We've got a web page, and it's basically showing you the same data that's being received by this guy here. So, Erin, if you want to come up quickly. Just pick up one of the sensors and move it a little bit. And can you see that value motion? Yeah? It's picking it up live real time. Every time you move it, it should go blue. You move it enough. And then if you put your finger over the temperature sensor, what we should see is that graph. You see that? And we do another one at the same time. Yeah, so it's because your finger isn't as warm as mine, but that's cool, thank you very much.
I'll go right now.
Yeah, so even if it's not going red enough, if it's not going hot enough to fire off the alert, we can still see it on here. And this is just a small angular dashboard. So if 2 isn't enough, we can go up to 4. If we had more sensors, we could go up to 5, we could go up to 6. And the idea is you have each of these bolted on top of your server rack. They're constantly monitoring the environment. This would be in your server room. You've seen the IT crowd, that kind of room. Hopefully not. This will stop them going on fire. Okay, and then also if somebody's kind of doing maintenance, unscheduled maintenance, they're pulling cables in and out. It's going to tell you in real time that something's going wrong. If we've got time, I will show you some kittens. So, which are actually running through Docker. Let's get back into talk. Where are you? Okay. So, I did go to DockerCon. I actually got there, and it was great. It's the home of coffee. I went for early registration, just along with all the other 4,000 participants. And I got to see the Space Needle, so that was great. But I came home and I kept learning. So I hadn't made it, I hadn't arrived. There was so much more that I could learn. And by talking to people at DockerCon and by looking into stuff on the internet, I found out about this tool called Grafana and InfluxDB, which is perfect for this. This is about a month's worth of data from our home. So everyone's been putting up with sensors connected in the front room, the back room, the lounge, and they've all been plotting on here. As you can see, the pressure dropped on the 20th of August for some reason, atmospheric pressure, and that's kind of cool. So there's so much you can do with this data, and I kept hacking. So Jim spoke earlier about OTG networking, which is like an over-the-cable network, and the great thing is that it's like an umbilical cord. You get power and network on one cable. This was released on the internet, and people were really interested in it. They asked me loads of questions, and it became the most popular tweet, I think, in August. Someone's alarm's going on. So, what's it say? Install Docker? No? So, here we go. OTG, and there's a tutorial if you want to know how to set this up. There's a tutorial out there. So I kept hacking, and I kept working on stuff, and I'm not going to stop. This is going to become more and more supported by Docker. In 1.12 release, they gave you a one command install. So curl get.docker.com/sh, similar to how you install Pimoroni stuff. It's over HTTPS, so it is a bit more secure, and you can check out the script.
We do HTTPS now. Too.
Yeah, and it works. So that's brilliant. And I kept on sharing. So the Raspberry Pi guys featured this content on their blog. They called it Docker Comes to the Raspberry Pi. It was really exciting. tons of people came asking me questions, and hopefully you've got some good ones for the swag. And then we looked at other stuff like, can we create swarm mode? Swarm mode is where you have effectively any service running on any Raspberry Pi or Docker engine, let's say a web server. You can talk to any computer in your cluster, say I want a web server, and it will figure out how to get there through mesh networking and give you the result back. So the kittens that I might get to show you are actually running on 2 Raspberry Pis in different houses, and if you ask one, it will figure out where to get it from. It's very cool stuff. So are there any questions?
I have, but it's very self-centered stuff. I'm a lecturer and I'd love to have you come in to CPT. That's at our place in Huntington.
Huntington? Yeah, I'm sure we could do that. That's what I'm here for, so I'm here to connect the community. Come and see me afterwards. You're not in trouble. So who wants some swag? Come on, 'cause I think that deserves something. Questions? Oh, hands are going up. Okay. So, yes.
Once you've downloaded containers and set this up, does the monitoring require connection to the internet, or is it entirely on the local network?
Yeah. So networking isn't actually required for this, other than pulling your images down. It depends what you want to do with them. This talk is kind of IoT, so the internet makes it much more interesting, much more useful. But yeah, you could.
And this is all over the cable, not using wireless technology.
So this is using Ethernet down here. Up there in the previous slide, we were just using what Jim showed us, which was a USB cable for that. Yeah. Yes, young man.
How long did it take you to build that?
How long did it take me to build it? So I've been doing this probably for about a year, looking into the technology, and things are so much easier now than when I started looking at it. I don't know if this makes sense, but I had to rebuild all of the code from scratch, and I had to mess about and find out where things weren't working. You guys, you've got the benefit of all that hard work. You can stand on the shoulders of giants, as I say. And it would be great if you want to try it out, maybe with your parents, if you get Minecraft working inside a Docker container. I've heard that works, so try it out.
Yeah, I presume that the Docker containers that you can download CPU architecture specific.
Yeah.
So how much of it is available to the Pi as compared
So
to
let me
generic
see
36 or whatever?
if I can go over to the public hub. So if you guys want to connect with me, and you don't get a chance now, my Twitter handle is AlexEllisUK. The website is alexellis.io. So want to take that down if you can remember it. Public hub, if we can get to it, has a bunch of images that I've rebuilt and published, and so there's a base Raspbian distribution. You can just add what you want to it and publish it. And there's some really good stuff out there. There will be full support for it as we go forwards. We've got Docker on Windows as well, and so at the moment you have to pull specific images. But when that multi-architecture support comes in, you can just pull a image like Golang or Python, and it will just work. Would you like it back? Or, yeah, got some stickers for you. Yeah.
I know this wouldn't be the most intelligent thing to do with it, Docker. I know there's a Minecraft server you can run with Docker.
Yes.
Does it support mods?
I don't know, but if you can find out, ping me on Twitter, because we might be able to share something around that. I'm sure that'd be really popular. So, yeah, Andrew? Yeah?
In the slide, we had the web dashboard and the LED dashboard
Yeah.
and Ellis. Are they each separate containers? Did you like
Yes, so in this slide, each one of those boxes is a separate container, And the great thing when you run it in a swarm is you just say what you want, and it will figure out how to do it for you, how to distribute it. Do go out there when you get home. Look out for my blog, or go to the Raspberry Pi Foundation. You'll find it's in their blog about a week ago, and you can install Docker. It's one command, and then just try something out. There's an example there for using an LED. So if you don't want to go to this elaborate, you can just blink a single LED. A guy in France saw what I'd done, and he connected a buzzer, and then he gave me the IP address of it. And so I sent Siege over there, and it was basically buzzing full time, and he had to turn it off. So don't do that. Come and get me in the main area once I've put all this away. I know people don't like to ask questions in a big auditorium. Okay.